This is today's webinar cornerstone. We've got some of our great manufacturer partners from York. We've got a lot of the York team on this call as well. And so we've got Jason Walker. He is the owner, the founder of HVAC Master of the Hustle, both his training organization and his podcast. So I got to interview Jason, and this is the first time that I've met someone where I could kind of relate with, right? Neither him nor I ever had HVAC or anything to do with the business on our radar. And as we started talking to one another, him and I both used to be in law enforcement, and kind of law enforcement had life in itself had a different direction for us. And so both him and I thought we were going to be in law enforcement for a while. Our lives took different turns. So 10 years ago, 2009, Jason is let go from the police department, Oak Grove. Is that right? Oak Grove PD?
Yes. Yep. Oak Grove PD.
So, I know what this feels like. I know when we're trying to figure out which department we're getting ready to go work at, right? And Jason finds a job that's going to be several hours away in California. He's getting ready to take his wife and go off to another police department. And his father-in-law kind of had a different idea of what his plans were for his little girl, right? So his father-in-law, Jason's father-in-law, invites him to come work at the air conditioning company that he ran. And so Jason decides to accept that offer, and he takes the role of the grunt. So this guy is sweeping floors. He's cleaning out installed trucks. He's getting everybody prepped for their success of tomorrow. 6 months or so down the road, he works his way into some duct cleaning jobs. There wasn't enough duct cleaning jobs available, so he's still sweeping floors and cleaning out trucks until finally he grows that side of the business to where he's doing 2 or 3 of those jobs a day until eventually they're booked out a month out from the duct cleaning side. But all of this was obviously a bigger part of God's plan for Jason, because now, they kind of say the rest is history, right? So I'm going to let him tell you the rest of the story, but I just want you to have a little background about this guy, where he came from, where he started from. It was all about law enforcement. Jason, I do want to thank you for your years of service there.
Thank you, sir.
I thank you more that you're now where you are and you're helping giving back to an industry that I love and is very dear to my heart. So this guy, though he does not have a lot of spare time, he is fully booked for the rest of the year. He told me he's got 2 or 3 weeks he's taken off for his family. But other than that, in his spare time, when he is home for a day or two at a time, he enjoys spending time with his 5-year-old son, taking him up to the mountains. He is a motocross dirt bike guy. I saw the new toy you bought recently.
Oh, yeah.
So that looks like that's going to be a lot of fun for the family. And, without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to Jason Walker. This guy is full of high energy, and he is going to deliver. And I'm telling you guys, take notes, get ready. And what he's about to deliver for you will ensure that this summer will be a success for you. So Jason, I'm going to pass it on. I appreciate you being here with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. First off, he did the introduction right there, but I want to educate you guys a little bit about myself and tell you a little bit about my backstory before we dive in a little bit deeper on this. So a little bit about my story, right? So law enforcement, laid off from the budget cut back in 2009. Now I was testing, just like Jonathan said, through another law enforcement, Southern California. And at that time, being laid off and everything, my father-in-law had an opportunity. He was the operations manager at his company for indoor air quality duct cleaning. And when he brought me into that department, I never thought I was going to go from law enforcement to HVAC. Never crossed my mind in a million years. But we talk about a blessing in disguise, right? So I started off as the grunt of the grunt, right? I was at the office 5:30 in the morning. Installers would have the trucks lined up for me, and I'd be throwing away ductwork and getting ready for their day, right? Making sure that they're successful. And while they brought me on to do warehouse, they also wanted to start their indoor air quality division. And when they started their indoor air quality division, I was doing maybe 3 duct cleans tops a week. Well, within the 6 months of me being there, I helped grow that department where we were doing 3 a week. I was doing 2 to 3 a day, booked out a month. So at that part, I saw the indoor air quality department grow. And I was like, man, this is awesome. There's a lot of potential at this company. So once I noticed that there was a lot of potential in the company and the industry itself, I went all in. That was the point. I said, you know what, let's do a change of career. Let's really find out how these systems work, how they operate. So I went into installs, learned everything I could as an installer. If you guys saw me, social media, people say I look short, but I'm 6'3", 200 pounds. So working in tight attics in summertime takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on your body. That's why I respect the hell out of installers. That's a hard job to do. That's why I respect my installers. I go to all my job sites. I bring them lunch. There's multiple things that I do, which I'll talk about while we're doing this webinar. But again, I grew that department. I went into installs. I learned how these installs were put together. And then I ended up getting transferred into a parts manager position. Now, as a parts manager, you guys, I was making $55,000 salary, which was law enforcement pay. And making $55,000 salary in California, I know we have people across the nation on this webinar, but living in California off $55,000, I was stressed. I was strapped. I didn't know how to pay my bills. I didn't know, where my money was coming to pay these bills because I couldn't afford it. And with that being said, I had a Tundra at the time. And my Tundra got repoed not once, you guys, but twice. And you talk about embarrassment. The second time it got repoed at my job, right? And I took a look at myself that week and I said, you know what? I have to do something different. I have to make a change. And I went to the owner of the company and I said, man, give me the opportunity, right? And I had no sales opportunity. So as you business owners listening to this webinar, he was very hesitant, right? Well, a couple of days went by and he thought about it and said, you know what? I'm going to give Jason the opportunity. Now, this was the opportunity that changed my life, you guys. He flew me to St. Louis. I did Airtime 500. I'm not sure if you guys know Airtime 500, but it's a training platform. I don't know if they're around any longer. I think they changed names. But I went to this training event in St. Louis. And when I was at this training event in St. Louis, I'm looking around in this room, right? This big hotel room. And I'm looking and I noticed there's 100 plus people in here. And the owner told me this was their beginning sales training course. Well, as they passed the books out, it was their experts training course, right? So as you guys can imagine, a young Jason, J-Dub, right? 24, 25 years old. And I'm going inside of a whole sales process where people know the process. They know, what type of training this is because they went through step 1, step 2. Now this is step 3. So I knew at that training I had to absorb everything like a sponge, right? And that's what I did because that Friday, the last day of the training, what they do is they bring a live homeowner and they pick a certain portion throughout your presentation where you do a certain portion of that. And it's a pass or fail class. And I'm not going to tell you guys that I dominated it because by any means, I did not dominate. I mean, I talk about, just to let you guys know, I'm an introvert. I'm a very, very, very shy person. So the fact that I do public speaking events in front of thousands and thousands of people, doing webinars in front of hundreds of people, going on-site trainings, that's out of my norm. But what I understand is that when you can succeed when you're not comfortable, right? The sky's the limits of what you guys can do when you guys are comfortable. So I did the presentation, I passed, I went back, and the company that I was working for was around for over 30 years. Now, in 30 years, they never had a comfort advisor hit 2 million. My first 8 months, I hit 2 million. I hit 2.2 million. I had a closing percentage of 48% and 52%. 52% on tech turnovers, marketed calls was 48%. I doubled my income. I made 120,000. I wasn't stressed. I paid my bills off. But as you progress, right, you continue to go to training events. And when I went to this training event, I sat down with another comfort advisor who did 2 million 7 years ago. And I'll never forget this conversation. He looked at me and said, man, Jason, let me ask you, congratulations on the 2 million, brother, but how much did you make off of that? I was excited, right? Oh, I doubled my income, 120,000. And when I said 120,000, I didn't get the response that I thought I was going to get. What I got was a chuckle, a laugh, and was like, man, what are you doing out there, bro? I made 187,000, ran the same amount of calls as you, same closing percentage roughly, and I made another $50,000. So let me ask you guys a question. I had to ask myself, could you guys benefit off another 20, 30, 40, $50,000? I could, right? And I'm sure most of you guys can. So that was a question that I asked myself after he told me that I knew that I could work smarter, not harder. I could run the same amount of calls. But because it was a learning curve my first year, right? I was getting 10% commission, but because I didn't know my financing, right? My tools, my arsenal, I wasn't clever on it. I was thinking with my own mind, you guys, my own philosophy on buying is if it's not 0%, don't buy it. So everything I was offering financing was 5 years, 0%. Now, being a new comfort advisor, I didn't understand what it was doing on the backside of the company as of me losing percentages because there was a huge merchant fee for that, right? The owner was okay with me doing it, but it would drop into my commission. So I was averaging 4% in my first year. So at that time, I went back to the drawing books and I said, now I got to work smarter, not harder. How do I do that? The way that you do that is I talk about objections, right? Which we're going to talk about objections on this webinar, but I call it a batter's box. And the reason why I call it a batter's box, you guys, is because growing up, I played baseball, right? And playing baseball, I always crowded the plate. And if you could imagine someone crowding the plate, right? What do you think that pitcher is going to throw? They're going to throw a high inside fastball, right? To try to move me from the plate. But here's the thing about it, and this is what comfort advisors and technicians fail at, is they get that objection, right? And they believe it, they buy into it because they don't want to ask for the business multiple times. But the thing about it is you guys could be creative and ask multiple times for the business and stay in that batter's box. Because again, if they throw me a high inside fastball, right, I'm not going to jump outside the batter's box. I'm going to keep my hands in, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my hands, adjust my swing, and I'm going to knock the crap out of the ball. Same thing when we're battling these objections, you guys. It's in our mindset and our beliefs that there's no way to overcome these, right? We get an objection, we believe it. Understand that there's always a sale being made on every call, every single call. It's either you're selling the homeowner on why they need a new system and you're happily involving them, or they're selling you why they don't need it. So at the end of the day, ask yourself this question: who should win that battle? When we're running 2 to 3 calls a day, 5 days a week, and homeowners only do this purchase once or twice in their life. That's something that you guys got to think about, right? But it's something that you have to change in your mindset as well. So again, as I progress in everything, just to let you guys know, the last 7 years, I've maintained over 3 million. My last year was last year. I was at Bell Brothers here in Sacramento, California, before going all in as a national sales trainer. The best year I had was 3.8 million. I had an average ticket of 19,500. I closed tech turnovers at 72%. I closed marketed calls at 68%. So I learned and fine-tuned my financing, right? I fine-tuned my objection battling. I cleared over 300,000. You know, this is an industry of a hidden gem industry, I say. The fact that I found this industry and that I'm making the money that I'm making is something I never thought of. And the reason why I say that, you guys, is talking about when I was a little kid real quick. I grew up with severe learning disabilities. So when I was in 3rd grade, I couldn't communicate, I couldn't talk, all right? And when I say I couldn't communicate and talk, I mean, it was straight baby babble. So I was taken out of class for speech therapy. And on top of that, like I said, I was diagnosed with severe learning disabilities, ADD and ADHD. So having all of these issues, I was pulled out of class and teachers were reading my test. And part of them reading my test, kids thought that I was getting answers, right? They would ask you throughout the years, why can't you read your own test? Why do you gotta get pulled out of class? So I had to address those questions. But also having severe learning disabilities, every quarter you meet with your teachers and you set goals with your family. And in front of my parents, every single quarter, they would ask me, what do you want to achieve next year? What's your goal for next quarter? And I would have the same response, you guys. I want to make honor roll. I would see all my friends putting stickers on the back of their parents' bumper cars, right? And to me, that was so cool to have my mom drive around proud that her boy is on honor roll, right? And that's something that I wanted to always do and achieve. And it was when I set my expectations up here, my teachers would see them throughout the years. And it's crazy to think this, but teachers, they would rip the rug out from under you. And they would say, Jason, let's not set our expectations up here. Let's go ahead and drop it to here, right? Let's just go for that average. Well, in my mind, I'm not an average person, right? I'm meant to do bigger and better things with my life. But I had to learn that. And I had to learn that not allowing people to tell me what I can do and the amount of success that I could achieve, that I have the power to run my own path, right? And with that being said, I ended up starting my podcast. I would go to these training events and people would hear the numbers that I throw out. And they'd say, man, Jason, that's awesome, right? Let's go to a steak dinner tonight. Let's go to a baseball game. And I'm like, cool, this is really cool. People, I've never been a person that people want information from, right? Growing up in school and everything like that. And so when that happened and I noticed that people wanted information from me, I said, man, how can I reach more people instead of going to these trainings every quarter? How can I reach them? How can I get them to the next level? 2 years ago, that's when the podcast was born, HVAC Masters of the Hustle. And so that's what drives me. So we'll talk about what drives you, right? So what drives me is people telling me in my life that I can't hit that level of success. Because in high school, I went to my parents and I said, you know what? The 4 years of high school, mom and dad, I don't want to get pulled out of class. I don't want to do learning center. I want to do everything on my own. And all 4 years of high school, I had a weighted GPA of a 3.5. So I did it. I didn't allow anyone to tell me that, Jason, you can't have this level of success. So that's what drives me, you guys, is people saying that, hey, you can't hit this amount of success. You can't do this. You can't do that. The second you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to prove you wrong. I just have that fire and that drive. And that's what my drive is people telling me throughout the years, you can't have this level of success. Now, my why is my son. So my wife and I, we adopted our son. Jonathan was letting you guys know he's 5 years old now. And when we adopted our son, I held him for the first time. He was 10 months old. And for those of you that have kids listening to this webinar, to me, it was crazy that I had this life in my hands. That was my responsibility, right? And I knew the backstory of what my son lived the 6 months prior before he was taken out to foster. And I told myself, there's no way I'm gonna allow myself to have this boy be in that type of situation again. So that's what drives me. That's my why is my son and my purpose. So 6 months into the podcast, I got a phone call from a business owner in San Diego. He was a follower of the podcast, and he said, man, Jason, do you do any on-site trainings? And at this time, 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago, I didn't. Again, you guys, I'm an introvert. That's out of my norm, right? And I agreed to go because I knew that if I did something that was uncomfortable, the sky's the limits of when I'm comfortable, right? And I went to this training, and the results that I got was something that I'll never forget. Now, I rode along with a technician. He was a selling tech, and he was a single father. He had 2 girls that were in high school. And as you could imagine, he was strapped pretty much with cash. And he was behind on his bills, kind of like my story. 2 months after we did the training, you guys, I got a phone call. I picked up the phone. It was the technician. And he said, Jason, I got to tell you, I got to thank you because you doubled my income, man. I was able to pay off my credit cards the last 2 months. And then also it's my daughter's prom, both of their prom or homecoming. I'm not sure what it was, but I was allowed to go to the mall today and I was able to buy them the dresses that they wanted. Now, as little as that sounds, you guys, I was hooked. Knowing that I could benefit someone's life. I mean, when you sell a system, it's great. I love selling systems. You know, you help an elderly person that has a no heat or a no cool and you involve them with the new system, or maybe a young family that has a little infant, right? That's really cool. But when you have someone call you and they say that you're changing your life or their life, man, sky's the limit, you guys. So that rolls me into training now. So now I'm all in on my training, as Jonathan was saying. I do 3 to 4 on-site trainings a month, and I'm booked out over a year. Now, I do have online trainings and things like that that are available this year, but just to thank you guys, all word of mouth, all things that people are seeing, results, right? I don't market my training. All I do is I market on the podcast. I put testimonial videos out there of what's happening when I'm on site with these guys, and I'm changing lives. When I'm on site, the difference between me and other trainers out there is the fact that when I come, I'm just not a classroom trainer. I don't sit there in front of your guys. I do a classroom training for 2 hours in the morning, and then I'm out in the trenches with the guys. And when I'm with the guys, I'm battling those objections with them. I'm in the trenches. I'm letting them fumble, but then I'm allowing them to see me pick them up and overcome those objections by me planting seeds throughout my process that I teach them. And not only do they see me do it in the classroom, but they see me do it in the homeowner's house, right? So they see that it works. And that's the difference between me and other trainers, is because I don't only talk to talk, but I walk the walk. I go in the field with the guys and implement everything that I train, because that's the mindset difference. When you could go in there and you could show someone that might be battling a certain objection, or you talking about an R22 buyback to create urgency, right? And they see that something like that works. God, the sky's the limit, you guys. So now rolling into the training and everything like that. So first off, I want to say thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to meet with us and everything like that. That's awesome. But what I want to do is I want to go ahead and get into some of this training, and I want to talk about some destroyer words real quick. So as we go inside of these trainings, what happens is we say things to homeowners that plant negative seeds, right? And if we are aware of those destroyer words, we can start taking and removing them out of our vocab, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start with the destroyer words for you guys. And when it comes to the destroyer words, I'll bring this up so you guys can see a little bit better, but I'm also going to be talking about it so you guys can write it down as well. So I got destroyer words and replacement words right here. And the first destroyer word, when we go in there as technicians, comfort advisors, installers, and we're ready for them to sign the bottom of the proposal or invoice, right? We're telling them, hey, can you please sign here, right? Instead of saying, can you guys please sign here? What if you replace that with, can you please approve it? Because now mentally they're approving something. After that, contract, invoice, right? Think about this. We go out there and we say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and fill out a contract, right? When you guys hear the word contract, what do you think of? You're binding into something. You can't get out of it, right? take that out of the vocab. Instead of contract or invoice, replace that with proposal or paperwork. All right. Now, homeowners don't want to buy. What the homeowners want to do is they want to own. They want to own a replacement of a system. They want to own a repair. They don't want to buy it. So talk about ownership. Instead of deal, opportunities, right? The crazy thing is for business owners, comfort advisors, and technicians, we send out a bunch of mailers, right? And all of a sudden we're like, oh man, we got all these deals going on right now. We get out there, we go inside the house and we educate the homeowner and we say, hey, have you heard about all of our deals going on? Right? Destroyer word, you guys. Take deals out, replace that with opportunities. Hey, we got a lot of opportunities going on with promotions and everything. Is that something that you want to hear about? Right? Now, sold, this is when we happily involve a client or sell a client a new system or a part repair, right? So I'm not sure who has Service Titan or what software you guys are using, but I'm a big culture guy. And when I close out with dispatch and everything like that, it's not, hey, I sold Bob and Betty a 3.5 ton, 16 SEER 2-stage system, right? It's I happily involved, right? It's I happily involved my client on a 2.5 ton, 3 ton system. And then you create that culture and that competitiveness, and then your dispatch sends it out to the whole company so everyone could celebrate, right? And if you have competitive installers or a sales team, what's going to happen is it's going to create a good culture because everyone's going to celebrate the win. But then if I see a text message come through from another comfort advisor that he just sold a $22,000 system, well, you know what I got to do is I got to find that opportunity now to go sell a $22,000 system. And what I want you guys to understand is if you want to be a $3, $4, $5 million guy, right? It's not gimme from the company, okay? It's not just sit there and wait for a call. It's what are you guys going to do? What are you going to do to go create an opportunity to go happily involve a client, right? It's not sitting at home. I mean, trust me, it's nice to sit at home, kick your feet up and watch TV, right? But the thing about it is, you guys, is I can't sit in front of my son, right? And if he was to ask me, hey, Dad, can we go to Disneyland? I can't look at that guy and tell him that I'm too much of a chicken shit to ask for the order or too lazy to get off the couch, right? So that's why I'm a grinder. That's why I'm the master of the hustle, because I'm nonstop, right? Master of the hustle means consistently working to get to that next level, right? It's not ripping people off or anything like that. It's the work ethic, the grind. What type of work are you providing your customer, right? Or your client? I mean, at the end of the day, you guys, everyone has 24 hours in a day, right? I have 24 hours. You have 24 hours. Elon Musk has 24 hours. But it's what you guys do with the time that's provided. As I stated with Jonathan is you have to sacrifice, right? One thing that I'm sacrificing right now, being on the road, because right now this year, I'm the fastest growing national sales trainer in the nation. What I have to do is I have to sacrifice being on the road 3 to 4 times a month. I'm not with my son. I'm not with my family, right? And so being on the road's hard, but that's a sacrifice that I have to take in order to get to the next level. And that's something that's hard for me to do, you guys. And I'm not taking it lightly or anything. I'm very transparent. Every time I'm to leave to go to the airport, if my wife or my son's not coming with me, because they usually come to 2 trainings a month with me, but the ones I'm by myself, I'm driving to the airport. I'm all teary-eyed. For those of you that are parents that have kids, that have loved ones, that's hard, man, to be on the road 3 to 4 times a month, 3 to 5 days a week, booked out over a year, right? But I know and I understand what I have to do in the next 2 years in order to be on top of the mountain, right? I love Joe Cursera. I love Weldon Long. I'd say those are the guys on top of the mountain. They're my friends. They're my mentor. But I also let them know that I'm climbing the top and I'm not just on the mountain, and I'm not going to be on the mountain by myself. I hate the saying, it's lonely on top of the mountain, because as a leader, As a leader, that means you're failing to do your part. So it's my mission to bring everyone to the top of the mountain with me. I'm not going to leave anyone behind. In my podcast, I say every single episode, I believe everyone has a Spartan in them. It's my job, my duty, and my obligation to bring that out in you guys. So going through this a little bit more, sold, happily involved. Now, when I go out to a house and someone calls me a salesman, I hate the word salesman, right? When you hear the word salesman, what do you think of? You think of slimy, right? Unethical, all about themselves, right? Well, I'm there to advise you, right? I'm there to give you solutions, inform, and advise. That's it. So at the end of the day, you make the best decision for you and your family. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I close those doors so I know what my objections are. The last thing I want to do is walk through the hallway, right, and get hit with my objection at the end. You got to close those doors before you present price and know what your objection is up front. So you could take your presentation and you could guide your presentation and close those doors. Decision makers. Now, this is a big one right here. This is a huge destroyer word for dispatchers trying to set appointments on the phone, technicians trying to do a turnover for a comfort advisor. Decision makers should be replaced with thermostat touchers. And now let me explain this a little bit as a dispatch side right here. And this will be a little role play that I'll do. So when I'm dispatching or I answer the phone as a dispatcher, right? And I say, hey, will all home decision makers be there, right? And they're like, well, I'm the one making the decision, right? But if you come across and you say, hey, so who in the house touches the thermostat? Oh, me and my wife touch the thermostat. Okay, well, we would like to go ahead and set the appointment with whoever touches the thermostat in the home. The reason being is because we're a premier company, and what separates us from all of our competitors is our in-house guarantees. And if we could go ahead and schedule it with whomever touches the thermostat, we could go ahead and extend our in-house guarantees. And again, that's what separates us from our competitors. If not, we could go ahead and send John out there, but again, we're not going to be able to extend those guarantees. Obviously, it's John's job to set him up for the best success, so he might be able to two-step it or get someone on the phone, right? But it's our job to pass the baton off right. I talk about on the podcast, running the Olympics, right? In HVAC, we have all these different departments that are divided, but there shouldn't be any division, you guys. Every department should be together, uniformed, right? Passing the baton off. Imagine them running the race or around the track in the Olympics, and they pass that baton off, right? And what happens if that baton pass isn't a smooth transition and they fumble it or anything, that could cause a millisecond off the race. And that could lose them the race, just a millisecond, right? And same thing with this is if we end up going in there and not being prepared, we could do something that will allow us to lose the race if we don't transition that baton pass from the dispatch to the technician. Then the technician passes it off to the comfort advisor, sets the comfort advisor up for success. And then it's our job as comfort advisors to pass that baton off and then set our install team up for success. Because as I travel the nation, one thing that I noticed is there's a lot of animosity for some reason between sales department and installs, right? Why is that? Usually it's because comfort advisors aren't setting their install team or department up for success. So how do you do that? You set them up for success by sending them a job packet form, right? The night before. There's a good scan or a app. It's free. It's called MyScan. I've been using it for years. It sends everything in a PDF file. So I take a picture of all the papers that needed to be done. I find out who's doing my install, right, the night before, and I communicate with him. The last thing I want to do is have that installer come in the morning of or on the job and look up at the attic access and notice that potentially I didn't measure the attic or maybe I missed that, right? And now all of a sudden the new unit's not going to fit through the attic. So either they got to demo the system and fold the sides in, or they got to enlarge the return or go through the return, right? So that's where you find the fumble of comfort advisors and installs, is not setting them up for success. And then on top of that, go to your installs. Like I said, I go to 95% of my installs when I have time, right? 5% I don't have time, 95% I'm there. And when I'm out there, I pay out of my pocket lunch for the guys to show them how much I appreciate their hard work, because I've done installs. That job sucks. It's hard. Working 10 hours in an attic when it's 100 degrees outside, it's 160 in the attic. You know, at the end of the day, we make good money, right? So we have to make sure that we respect every single person when it comes to all the departments. So passing that baton off. Then going to cost. It's not cost, that's going to be a destroyer word. Instead of cost, we want to replace it with investment. Flat rate is going to be a destroyer word. It's not flat rate, it's straightforward pricing. And then, how are you going to pay for it? Instead of asking, hey, how are you going to pay for it? Cash, check, credit. How would you like to arrange for that today? Right? Just changing a little bit how you communicate to the homeowner. How would you like to arrange for that today? They're not customers, they're what? They're clients. Customers go to McDonald's through the drive-thru and come and go. Clients stay forever, you know, potentially they should be staying forever. That's our goal. So also the last thing, I don't have it on this list right here, you guys, but take out of your vocab when you're doing a presentation, take out to tell you the truth, to be honest with you, and basically. The reason why you want to take out to be honest with you, to tell you the truth, because that instills that somewhere in your presentation, you might have given them false information, even though you might not have, right? It's just a plant to the homeowner. Where did they give me false information? And then if a homeowner asks you a question and you follow up with the response with basically, that tells and ensures that you're uncomfortable or you don't know what you're talking about. You're unsure of what you're talking about. So again, making sure you take these out of your vocabulary so you guys aren't planting the wrong seeds into your homeowners' minds. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is I want to talk about knowing what questions to ask before they come up, right? And I always want to be 2 steps ahead of my homeowner, right? I want to direct the conversation of where it needs to go. I want to be the one asking the right questions, not them asking questions. Yes, I do want them to ask questions, but again, I want to direct the questions. I want to ask questions off of their questions. So things that I'm going to ask them, or I know the questions that I'm going to ask, and write these down, please, is what are you recommending? So when you go into a house as a service technician, a comfort advisor, right? Mentally, you have to get yourself prepared. What are you going to be recommending? As a technician, it might not be your company's first time going out there, right? Maybe you guys use ServiceTitan, maybe you use Successware, but finding information of what other technicians did when they were out there, what the other comfort advisors or technicians offered when they were out there, right? All those notes should be in the computer, because those are things that I'm going to go through as a technician or a comfort advisor to make sure I set myself up for the best success possible. Now, why they should buy it, right? What solution is this problem going to fix, right? So if they have hot or cold spots, right, in the home, what solution is that going to fix? Why they should buy it? We have to educate to the homeowner the reason why they should buy it. But then that's a follow-up question to question 3 is, why should I buy it from you? What makes you so different? What makes your company so different? At the end of the day, they have access to the internet. They could call anyone they want, right? But think of this, you guys, business owners, why'd you start your own company? Why didn't you work for someone else? A technician, why do you work for the company you work for? Think about a 60-mile radius. How many HVAC contractors are in a 60-mile radius? Probably a lot, right? So there's a reason why you guys chose the company you work for, or as a business owner, why you branched off to start your own company. You need to educate homeowners about this stuff so we can relate to them, so they can relate to us. Because again, you guys, they don't know our story. They don't know who we are. And then how are they going to pay for it, right? Every single time you guys present options, every single time, parts, present financing, systems, present financing. I was doing a training this morning and I was shocked because they don't present financing. And I asked them why, and they didn't really have, a really good response. And it was just lack of education of financing, right? So we have to know our financing and use that as a tool to our ammunition, because that's what was killing me my first year as a comfort advisor, is not knowing my financing, not being trained properly, having the business lose so much money, having me lose so much money. So really fine-tuning our skills and giving them financing, things that are affordable. One thing you guys will notice is when I present options, if you guys have me on site or train with me down the line, when I present options, I present 4 options. But I sure as hell make sure that every single option, based off the questions that I asked, because I tie them in on a budget, I tie them in on financing, right? Huge right there, you have to. And I make sure that every single system that I design for them is going to be affordable, right? And then when should I buy it, right? Anytime you guys are offering a system replacement, a part repair, you have to create urgency. 100%, you guys have to create urgency every single time. If there's no urgency, you're going to allow them so much time or too much time to think about it. And that's what you're going to get at the end of your closes. Oh, well, we need to think about it, right? But if you add that urgency to it, which I do an R22 buyback, which I'll educate you guys on. This works across the nation. It's a huge nugget. So I bring the homeowner out to the condenser outside when I'm doing training and when I was a comfort advisor. And when I bring the homeowner out, the technician could do this or a comfort advisor. You ask them, you look at the system, you paint a picture of what your installers are going to be doing visually while they're out here. But then you ask them, how long do you think the average life of a system is, right? And they say, oh, average life, 15, 17 years. Okay, well, with your system being 15 years old, would you consider it the end of its life? And you have them agree, right? Yeah, I would agree. I just told you that, right? Okay, and again, now I'm going to dig in a little bit deeper. Well, with your system being at the end of its life, what would you say your system's worth right now if you were to sell it or someone was to buy it, right? A lot of times I get, well, it's not going to be worth much, or it's not worth anything. And then I say, so if you're to put this thing on Craigslist, you don't think anyone would buy it? And a lot of times I go, no, someone would probably charge me to take it away. And I look at the system and I look at the model number and I go, you know what? You're in luck. The reason why is your system actually run off R22 refrigerant, which is an obsolete refrigerant. They don't manufacture it anymore. So with that being said, we're EPA certified. So what we're going to do the day of the install, we're going to purge the system. We're going to clean the refrigerant. We're going to take it out the right way, right? And potentially use it for service work down the line. So what you just told me was worth 0 is actually a credit going on till the end of the month, as long as we can install it, which is $1,000 credit or $1,200 or $1,500, whatever you guys want to use. But now they just told you something wasn't worth anything, right? And now they have skin in the game. And then you're also telling them that it's a promotion, it has to be installed by the end of the month. And then you're also telling them that you're extremely busy and all of your clients know about this promotion going on right now. All of a sudden, their mind shift is going to start switching and they're going to start asking buying questions. How long does it take to install a system? How soon can you install? How far backed out are you? So you're going to start noticing buying questions, right? They're going to start going this way. So always making sure you guys tie in urgency. So what are you going to be recommending? Why they should buy from you? Why they should buy it? Why they should buy it from you? What makes you so different? How can they pay for it? And when should they buy? So lastly, what I want to talk about on this training is objections. You know, there's so many times I go to a company and a lot of times they're just battling these six objections right here. And I'm going to go through these with you guys, and I'm going to show you how I close the doors on them or what seeds or nuggets I plan throughout my presentation. So one of the first objections is it costs too much. Okay. Now, after I go through a presentation, if I hear the word, and everyone listening on the webinar right now, if you guys hear it costs too much, you have to pump the brakes a little bit. And you got to think to yourself, where in my presentation did I lose a disconnect with my homeowner because they're telling me it costs too much? That means that I didn't justify my price to show the value of my product, right? They don't see the value in my product to solidify the price. So where do I have to go back to re-educate them in my presentation, right? Be aware of that. It costs too much is really you just adding more value. I can't afford it, right? When a homeowner says I can't afford it, that tells me that before we're doing our presentation, we're not tying them in on a budget. We're not tying them in on a budget. We're not tying them in on a finance, something that's affordable without taking food off the table, right? We have to do this, you guys. The last thing I want you guys to do is do a beautiful presentation, right? Not get a budget out of a homeowner, not get financing, something that's affordable to them, and then get hit at the end of it. Oh, I can't afford it, or I thought it was going to be this much. We have to establish a budget every single time. And you guys have to be aware that your price of your system is your ammunition, okay? The second you guys get price, you're 100% dead in the water. The fact of you guys coming back to do a re-sign or go back in is less than 10%. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you set yourself up for success, ask the right questions, and make sure that you're walking down that hallway presenting the system when it needs to be presented, or the part repair when it needs to be presented. Now, I want to think about it. When I hear I want to think about it, to me, that's a smokescreen objection. Now, a smokescreen objection is not a true objection. It's something to interfere with the real objection, right? So it's questions that you have to ask on questions to dig deeper to get to the real objection. So when someone says, I want to think about it, so Bob and Betty, what is it that you need to think about, right? Price or product? Oh, product. Okay, well, where do you plan on doing your research? Oh, online. Okay, well, do you believe everything that you read online? No. Okay, well, with that being said, let me go ahead. I'm going to grab my laptop right here, and you start doing the research with them. Why allow them to walk away and get false information and do false research when you're the professional, right? No, you guys need to feel deep down inside as a business owner, a technician, or a comfort advisor that no one does this job better than you guys. And when you walk into the house with confidence like that, you're going to instill confidence walking out of the house, and you're going to happily involve a homeowner. So I need to think about it, really dig in deep, ask questions off of questions. I need 3 bids. This is a big one, right? Everyone, I need 3 bids. So the way I go about 3 bids is painting a picture, all right? And I'm actually going to use the story that I used at Bell Brothers, because Bell Brothers, Ken and Jerry, the owners, are big givers back to the community. And I mean, they have a huge heart. And what happened was there was, we'll just call them the Ramirez family. Okay. There's a family that had a little girl who had cancer. She was 6 years old. And what happened was she had a lung cancer. And when they diagnosed her with this lung cancer, they had to have their house tested. And they had their house tested with mold and everything like that. And that's what they found. They found black mold, things that were highly deadly for this little girl. Now, as you could imagine, the comfort advisor that came out sat down with this family and gave them options on system replacement. Well, what happened was that comfort advisor ended up running them through financing, didn't get them approved. Ran them through another financing, didn't get them approved. Ran them through another financing, didn't get them approved, right? So what that comfort advisor did was call the owners, Ken and Jerry, and let them know about the situation of what's going on, because as you could imagine, they weren't getting approved because they had hundreds and thousands of dollars of medical bills in debt for this little girl. And this could end up, potentially taking her life. So with that being said, Ken and Jerry stepped up to the plate. They installed a brand new system at no cost to the homeowner. So let me ask you guys this question. Do this to a homeowner. If you had 3 contractors on one side and you had X, Y, and Z, our company on the other hand, and we treated you like the Ramirez family, who would you go ahead and move forward with? Right? So if I had 3 contractors on one hand and I had my company on the other hand, and we treated you like the Ramirez family, who would you move forward with? A lot of times they're going to say you, but that might not work every single time, you guys. And I talk about building brag books, right? Books to help you with your arsenal for tools. So at the end, if I end up painting a picture to the homeowner about this story of how we helped a family or helped repair a system to get a family up and going, and that doesn't help, at the end of the day, my appointment's about 1.5 to 2 hours. And homeowners don't want to sit there for multiple hours getting multiple estimates, even though they tell us they want multiple estimates. So again, I'm always one step ahead of everyone, right? So you guys, I have multiple estimates that I have from our competitors, right? So I asked them, Bob and Betty, would you consider your time pretty valuable, right? Usually I get the answer, yeah, my time's pretty valuable. And I say, you know what? I understand my homeowners' times are valuable. So I've done my due diligence, and what I've done is I've gotten multiple estimates. You said you wanted 3, how about 50, right? I mean, I got about 50 of them here. And what I do is I go through them one by one until they tell me to stop. Now, after they tell me to stop, I ask them, well, why'd you guys ask me to stop? I have so many more I need to go through. And they go, oh, well, we noticed that they're all about the same price or whatever it is, right? This right here is a game changer. Collecting estimates, seeing what our competitors are doing in the field. The way I got these to educate you guys is back when I had a rental, I had an old system there, and I would come out and have them, I would shop my competitors. And this was before I got big into the industry, so no one really knew who I was. But that's how I went about getting my estimates. I wanted to know what my competitors were doing out there. How am I losing jobs to them, right? And the crazy thing is once you find out what your competitors are doing, you're like, holy crap, how am I losing a job to this guy, right? At that time, it's probably just cheapest price. Now, how do you overcome cheapest price, right? You have to instill fear and doubt to do business with our competitors without talking shit, right? The way you go about that, take pictures of installs that were done incorrectly that you guys ended up fixing, right? Go through those with the homeowner. Let them know that people call you because of your amazing reviews, but you also get a lot of calls to fix competitors' installs. What brand is it? So when someone asks me, hey, what brand is it? I simply say and ask, let me ask you a question. Now, with brand, right? What, based off your research, what's the top manufacturer that you've done your research on? And they say Trane, Lennox, whatever it is. And based off your research, what's the low-end manufacturer, the least liked manufacturer out there? Oh, York or Goodman, right? And then I simply paint a picture to them. And I say, so I'm going to go ahead and paint a picture. You take that Trane system, right, which you just said is top manufacturer, and you go ahead and install it to or Uncle Buck in his truck, who's a licensed contractor, installs it to an undersized return intake. right? So when that system's running with the undersized return intake, imagine running a marathon breathing through a straw. Now, Bob and Babe, do you think you're going to make it through that marathon? Right? Some say yes, some say no. Now, if they say yes, after that marathon, you're going to be like gasping for air, right? Your system's doing the same thing. Now, let's go even over and beyond that, okay? And let's state that they hook up to an undersized return, but then they don't seal your ductwork. So you're actually losing more than 30% of your airflow, which is allowing your system to run a lot longer and harder, right? Which is taking long life out of your system, which is driving your utility bill up. So, and then you take that York system or Goodman system installed by X, Y, and Z, right? And we check the CFM, we install to the right return. So we calculate how much cubic feet a minute airflow is going in the system and out, making sure it's breathing correctly. Then on top of that, we seal the ductwork so you're not heating and cooling the attic or the subfloor. And then we notice that the refrigerant lines are undersized, and we change the refrigerant lines so the unit's cooling at its capacity. Now you put it back on them and you say, so Bob and Betty, what system do you think would last longer? And they're going to say, oh, the York system. And then I say, so then you would agree that the most important day of the system's life is what? And they say, the install. And I go, and it's not what? And they say, manufacturer. So that's how you get brand off the table right there. The last one is I need to talk to my spouse, and we'll wrap this up, you guys. I need to talk to my spouse. That's a big one. You guys got to ask direct questions on that. If it's only a one-legger, set yourself up for the best success by asking the right questions. Hey, hey, whomever touches the thermostat, oh, it's my husband. Okay, is your husband going to be available by phone? Right? If the husband's not available by phone, ask if maybe, again, I'm going to still fill them out. I'm not going to two-step it right away. I'm going to fill them out throughout my process because I'm going to try to close first time in. And I'm going to ask them, you know, towards the end, maybe that offer them an efficiency bonus, right? So Bob and Betty, every time we are to come out to meet with you and the husband or do paperwork or anything like that, it's taken away from bringing on potential clients to help keep our installers busy. Would you guys agree with that? So what I can do is I could call my manager to see if he's willing to go ahead and offer an efficiency bonus, which I could see usually it's $500. If you were to go ahead and make that call to see if you guys want to go ahead and move forward with that new system today. So Bob, would you, or Betty, would you say that that phone call is worth $500? Well, shit, it's a phone call, right? Absolutely, it's worth $500. So that's the response I get, right? And then after they say that, yeah, it's worth $500. Well, would you like for me to call them off my phone, or would you like to call them off your phone? I'm not going to say, hey, well, will you call them, right? I want to allow them to have them think that I actually have their number. I might not have their number, but the way I address it and ask the question, hey, Betty, do you want me to go ahead and call them off my number or my phone or your phone? Oh, no, I'll call them off my phone. Okay, do you mind doing it on speaker? Right? Or do you mind making that phone call in front of me? I want to make sure that phone call is done, because the last thing I want to do is have them tell me, oh yeah, I'll go ahead and make the phone call. And then all of a sudden I get to it, right? And then I shoot myself in the foot because now I'm presenting pricing. They can't get them on the phone, right? But at least if I know that they tried to make that phone call and that they still couldn't get them on the phone, I might two-step that, right? To set myself up for the best success possible. Also, just a quick little nugget, you guys. I'm pretty brutal when it comes to closing calls and battling objections and really staying in that batter's box. So for me, when a homeowner says, you know, it's a one-legger and if they need to talk to their husband, maybe it's a wife, at the end of the day, you guys try something like this. And like I said, this is very ballsy, but at the end of the day, it works very well for me. It works very well for a lot of people out there. So Bob and Betty, let me ask you a question, or Betty, let me ask you a question. Who does majority of the shopping, like grocery shopping, in the house? And they're going to say, oh, well, my wife does the shopping, or I do the shopping, right? Well, how much do you spend a month at the grocery store? Oh, I spend $400 a month. Okay, $400 a month. And when you're in the checkout line and the grocer's checking you out, are you calling your husband on the phone to let him know, hey, I just want to let you know this month it's $400 in groceries? No, we're not making that phone call because we know and understand that we need to eat, right, to provide for our family, right? It's an essential. If you have them agree that your heat and air system is an essential, right, and your husband's okay knowing that your grocery bill is $400, knowing because it's an essential for the family, I had you at $200 a month right now. So would you say your husband would be okay with this investment, knowing it's $200 a month, knowing that it's an essential for you and the family? And again, it's staying in that batter's box, you guys. Again, we're wrapping this up. I want to say thank you guys for joining the webinar and everything. HVAC Masters of the Hustle. You guys could go to my website if you guys have questions about my on-site training, my online training, anything like that. I go in deep with my 7-step sales process. I open people's mindset, and I'm here to get anyone and everyone to the next level. So thank you guys for joining the webinar. I'm going to go ahead and pass this back to Jonathan.
Awesome. Jason, I mean, absolutely amazing stuff. Some of those nuggets you just dropped were just absolute fire. Dylan, who is a friend of mine now, a friend of yours, he is a new member of the Cornerstone family. He dropped a really awesome line there, just saying, you know, just praising you and just saying anybody on the fence that you're 100% the real deal, because he's told me you've helped his business and his guys tremendously. So I do have a question. You have an event next month. Is there still seats open? You and I didn't discuss this.
Yeah, so I have a big event May 27th and May 28th in Vacaville, California. It's a 2-day event. So if you guys are tired of Zoom meetings or Zoom trainings, this is a live event. I could only have 50 people there. It's almost sold out. I think we're about 80-90% capacity right now. Tickets probably will be sold out by April 1st. Whatever's left after April 1st. Right now it's $1,000 a person. It does go up to $19.95 April 1st. But again, that's a 2-day event. You have myself. We're going to be providing food. We have hotel information, special prices. This is going to be an event that you guys don't want to miss. I promise you. Talking about the 7-step process, giving your guys the seeds and nuggets to get to the next level. So if you guys want to be a part of that, go to the website, www.hvacmasterswithans.com, and you guys could sign up there. You can get your registration forms, but like I said, it's about 90% occupied right now. I think there might be less than 10 spots.
Awesome. So for everybody on here, I dropped Jason's, let's see. I'm going to drop it now in the chat. So everybody has his website. It's in the chat now. We will be sending the replay of this webinar out to everyone, and I will make sure to include, I'll get some info, Jason, on the event and make sure that we'll put a registration link on there.
Absolutely.
We had some people reach out, Jason, that were having issues getting on here. So a lot of people are going to be wanting this replay.
Absolutely.
It looks like we've got some people that have some questions that they're going to be emailing in. I would love to get you back on here in the near future. Let some people, let the people that weren't able to get on have their questions available, and maybe we kind of create a little session around, you know, some.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's plan on that within the next 2 weeks. Whoever has questions, we could do just the open Q&A.
Let's do it. That sounds great. Jason, I thank you again, man. I know you got an extremely busy schedule, and it's truly been a great time. Let's see, we got a question here. Want price and idea of cost to have on-site training. All right, so Ricky, I've got your question. Jason's got your question, and we will join the hands between you guys and get that set up, all right? So Jason,
Absolutely.
thank you very much. We'll be in touch with you soon. And we got Ricky said the podcast is amazing. It is. So I've dropped the podcast link. I've dropped your website link. Guys, make sure you are signed up for the podcast. This guy drops enough knowledge in one of those podcasts to last all of us a good year. And he's just dropping them left and right now. So Jason, thank you again for your time. I appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely, man. And before everyone leaves, I believe everyone has a Spartan in them. It's my job, my duty, and my obligation to bring that out in you guys. Take care.
Appreciate it, man.